You guys, it's important that you wedge your clay before, and you remember the types of wedging. What do we have here? The ram's head. All right. And I want you to also practice doing the spiral wedge. And it's important that you wedge it maybe like 20, 25 times before you get started. I'm going to have a little bit less clay here because this would make a giant bowl if I were to use that much clay. It's also important to have more than one piece wedged and have it stored next to you. So if you have an epic failure or you throw something amazing really fast, you have another ball of clay ready to go in the wings. All right? So we're going to wedge this clay really well. This is nice soft clay. Make it a ball. Some people like to start with a cone shape. I like to start with a ball. So the wheels that we use here are electric wheels. This wheel is a Brent and has a pedal, and it has two different directions, but you're just going to be going forward. Also has a switch that goes on and off. The wheels over here just have switches, and your speeds are high, which is up, and low, which is down. All right? So everybody is plugged in. I worked on where you guys need to be. You're going to take your sponge and just moisten your wheel head. You're not going to go too crazy with water. You don't want to splash all your neighbors. You're going to throw this lovely well-wedged ball center as possible. Adjust it if you need to. Make sure it's well suctioned on your wheel head. So you have your wheel head here, splash pan, and switches and speeds over here. You have your bucket and all your tools laid out. Once you have kind of like a loaf-like shape that you've patted into place and has a nice suction, you're going to go ahead and wet your hands up to your arms and your wrists. A little bit of water and clay. And you need to start if you're on these. Get started in kind of a fast speed. If you're on that wheel, the switch is going to go off. All right? The first thing you do is center your clay ball into the center of the wheel. You're going to let centripetal force and compressions with your body and your hands move that clay ball to the center of the wheel. Because you want a nice ball in the center so it's not wobbly. Right? When you're doing that, you're going to push away from yourself. It's important to use your core or lock your arms against your body because you have more strength behind your core and your body than if you're just like this with your arms. Right? So think elbows on your body, on your legs, or on your splash pan. Right? Also going to push down like this. Right? The clay is going by the fatty parts of your hands, so there's not lots of finger marks on it. Right? So fatty parts of your hands, press it down and over. So you're smushing that ball of clay using those rotations of the wheel to work it into the center, right? So you can see I pushed down, over, and I slid back, right? Now you're going to push away from yourself. The key is nice, firm compressions and gentle releases. If you release too fast, I'll show you. Whoa! All right? So if you release too fast, it's going to throw it off center, right? Easy to correct. You just gather it back up, and you want to think of it almost like an exhale when you release pressure. So, all right? So it keeps it nice and centered. So you always want to have controlled compressions and controlled releases, right? So that's why it's kind of important. It's hard to do if you're chatting with a neighbor. You kind of want to stay focused on your work, right? So we're centering kind of on the left side. Think of this as a clock. Kind of over here, 9. Rolling towards 6. And gently releasing. You notice I'm not wetting my clay a lot, I'm just wetting my hands. And I'm compressing and kind of gathering that clay up. Right. So lifting that clay up. This is called coning. So kind of gathering it, bringing it up a little bit. Gather, bringing it up. Pressing down. So once you feel like it looks like it's not moving inside your piece, you're going to clean up your wheel head, get rid of any extra clay that's in your wheel head, because sometimes that can be distracting or bump your hand. Any water, a little bit of wobble at the top. You want it to be as closely, perfectly centered as possible in order to get a nice, easy form. So when throwing a bowl, I like to start kind of with a beehive shape. So a nice rounded top, a little beehive shape, nice and steady looking. If you're going to be on these wheels, you're going to slow your wheel down at this point, all right? This one, I'm going to cap a little bit. Slow it down just a smidge, okay? You don't have to ride this pedal with your foot on the pedal, okay? Some people get excited and they're like, oh, it's like driving. No, you can set your speed and then step away from your pedal for this wheel, okay? So to open it, you're going to open with your thumb, all right? There are lots of different ways to throw on the wheel. These are just the easiest steps that I think can yield to a successful piece. So I slowed my wheel down. I'm going to gently glide my hands along the top. My right thumb's going to go in. It's going in. So see you later, lefty. Lefty's there for support, so you need to darken there. And you gently back out. Again, controlled compressions and releases. You're going to go probably like a half an inch to the wheel head. You don't want to go all the way to the wheel head because then you have to start again. That means your piece is not going to have a bottom. All right? So it's important to stay about this height and above. Otherwise, you're going to squish through and make a hole in the bottom. Once you've made that hole, we're going to open it up a little bit and you make the shape of the inside. So I use my left hand. And I'm going to pull on the inside, supporting with my right hand on the outside. All right? So we centered over here. We opened right here. Now we're working at about 4 o'clock. If you ever think about this is noon, you want to be working at 4 o'clock. If you try to work up here, you're going to woo. If you try to work over here, it's awkward. So it's important to see what you're doing. Your workspace is going to be about right here. So this hand's going in. What he's going to do, you're not going to see too much from the outside, but I'm going to open it up and create that shape. And similar to other forms, if you keep it more of a closed form, you can always flare it out. It's really hard to close up once it's opened up. So you want to keep it a little bit more of a closed form. Compressing the rim a little bit. I'm going to put some pressure on the outside, create like a little notch. I'm going to lift that clay up and out. Again, cleaning any excess water in the inside of my piece out. Pressing the rim. I'm going to lift again. So I'm sandwiching the clay between these 2 points. So 1, 2, 3, lift. With every rotation, I'm gently going up the side of my piece while squeezing, all right? So you're making the wall thinner and taller. You're compressing it, you're lifting that wall. You always want to do probably like 3 structural lifts, is what I'm doing right now. And then you can do some shaping with some top of that, but you don't want to try to like do too many crazy structural lifts. You want to be a little bit more concise with your work. So this will probably be my 3rd and final structural lift. Press that rim. I'm going to get some of the water on the inside. You don't want the water to settle in the inside of your piece because it can later lead to S cracks. So now I'm going to do some shaping. Little piece. So when it comes to Japanese tea ceremony bowls, they have 2 general shapes. What shape do you think they would use in the winter? A shape that's like this? Or a shape that's more closed? More closed? Yeah. So why do you think? Correct. So there's less surface area of that tea getting cooled. Whereas the summer, more surface area to get cooled faster. So you want to have nice form. So now I'm just playing around with the shape. I'm going to give a little flare. If your piece is a little bit wonky, you can always trim off the top. With your pin tool, all right? I know this can be scary, but it's not once you practice. You're gonna hold it like a pencil in your right hand, even if you're left-handed. I know it feels a little weird, but you're not writing, you're just holding. You're gonna hold it nice and stable. You're gonna wet your left hand. Pointer finger is gonna glide along the inside. Thumb is gonna glide along the outside. And you just gently take that top little edge off. So I'm piercing through, letting the wheel do the work for me. So the key is steady hands, pierce through, gently pinch and lift. If for some reason it kind of falls over and flops over into itself, stop your wheel and pick it up. Don't try to chase it around. All right? So stop your wheel and peel it off. Now you can tidy up your rim, pointer finger inside, thumb outside, supporting the wall. And now you can do some further shaping if you want to get real fancy. Real see with your bowl forms. Again, you want to have a nice, consistent wall thickness. I will also teach you guys trimming the bottom of the piece, which is a separate step. If you have some extra clay at the bottom, you can use your wooden modeling tool, hold it like a dart, support it underneath. It can be a little grabby with this, so you want to make sure you're holding it tight. You're just going to take a little bit of extra clay off. I don't have too much extra, but just scraping it off kind of cleans it up a little bit. You will be trimming these, so don't sweat that extra clay down there too much. So just kind of clean it up a little bit. All right. So you're going to any excess moisture out of the inside. Make sure my wall is how I want it. Looks good. Make sure your rim looks good. And now we're going to cut the piece off the wheel. All right. So you guys are going to use wire tools to cut your piece off the wheel. It's important that you have your whether it be your tray or your decorating wheel ready to put your piece on. You don't want to be walking around with your piece on the lifters. Let's see here. We have 3 different size lifters. This one looks kind of like a medium. It's important that these are clean so your project doesn't stick to it. I like to get them a little bit wet. So you take your wire tool. You're going to have it go to your pinkies. These are kind of like the perfect length. Sometimes you have to wrap it if it's longer. So you're like this. Press your thumbs against your wheel head and keep it flat against the wheel head. Otherwise, you run the risk of cutting the bottom of your piece off. All right? Ooh, it splashes you sometimes. I like to do it twice. Perfect. And you take your lifters. You gently, like a little construction vehicle, go underneath it, twist, lift, and then place it on your lovely tray or decorating wheels